How's it going, everybody? I'm with the wife's truck and my truck today, and I thought it'd be a decent idea to shed some light for the new truck owners, what you might like between the two, what you hate one versus the other. So I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of break these two trucks up. They are completely different, other than the fact that they're both diesels and they're both 90s trucks. So today I would like to go over the difference between solid axle trucks and independent suspension trucks. So come closer. So this is my 1997 Chevy K3500 with a 6.5 turbo diesel. Difference between my truck versus my wife's truck is that this diesel is an indirect injection diesel versus direct injection. So Chevy as a whole, they started in 88. They switched to independent front suspension. That means that it has A-arms and they move independently from the axle itself. So it has a front differential, has upper and lower control arms, and then it has a CV axle or an axle shaft that is independently moving. Wife's truck is a 1995 F350 with the 7.3 turbo diesel. It has a Dana 60 solid axle. What that means for your new truck owners is that the axle housing is all built together and it rides on the suspension, so there's no movement between your axle and your outer knuckles for your hubs and stuff. So there's little to no movement here other than the suspension. Lots of movement on this truck, so determine which one you want. The pros of a solid axle are that this is a much more solid, well, conveniently, this is a more well-built axle versus this. This is better off-road. Anytime you see, an off-road vehicle or a rock crawler, things like that, 9 times out of 10 people are going to have a solid axle versus independent front. This is good for ground clearance. So the lowest part on a solid axle is the differential, which that holds your ring and pinion gear. And you can see that there's no A-arm or anything like that. It's just one solid beam across the whole front end, and it just has a knuckle on the end, so there's no movement between the axle and the knuckle for the hub. Suspension, this axle will move in accordance to the suspension. So strong design. The ride quality, I mean, it's leaf spring front end, so it's a little stiff. It's just like leaf springs in the rear end is always going to be stiff, but there's no movement between your axle hub and the axle itself. So an independent front suspension, so in behind this rough country plate, I'll try to get a good shot. So right there is my front differential, and then you have a lower control arm and an upper control arm, and then you have your CV axle. So when you flex the suspension up and down, your front differential is going to stay in place and the tire itself will move independently from that, hence the independent front suspension. Benefit to this is it creates a smoother ride quality via the torsion bars, which are back here. If you didn't have a lift, they would be tucked up in the frame, but it's your cross member for your traction bars that go to the lower control arm, and that's what controls your suspension travel. Move all that down, and it makes it a lot easier to see, because usually that front differential is tucked up right next to the oil pan. But so a lot smoother ride quality, and a little bit more ground clearance in the front on the independent. You can see that the lowest part of the suspension, try to get a good decent shot. Lowest part of the suspension is this little differential guard plate in the front. In the rear differential is the lowest point on the whole suspension as far as, you know, ground clearance wise. If you drive over a stump, you may miss it with the front suspension, and you know, you may smack your rear differential. On a solid axle, you will smack the crap out of your front differential before anything, so keep that in mind. However, it is a solid, you know, suspension. It's very tough, it's very strong. Another thing that is unique between independent front and a solid axle is most solid axles have, it's called a locker. So while you're driving down the road, not off-road or anything, you can actually disengage your hubs, which creates less road resistance, and you know, it actually improves fuel economy, creates less road resistance, so you're not pushing everything in the front axle along with the rear axle going down the road. For my truck, even though the four-wheel drive isn't hooked up right now because of the front drive shaft, I still need to buy a new crossover pipe, as you probably saw. My truck doesn't have lockers, so it just has an electronic solenoid that engages the front differential. My pickup does have 4 on the floor, so it engages the transfer case, and then there's a little solenoid for the front differential that lets the computer know that you're in four-wheel drive, gives you the little signal down by your four-wheel drive shifter that it's actually in four-wheel drive. Wife's is 4 on the floor as well. However, if you were to lock the transfer case into four-wheel drive without locking the hubs, you're still in two-wheel drive. So you occasionally you've heard, you know, get out and lock the hubs. That's it. If you're stuck in a mud hole in two-wheel drive and you have to climb out and lock your hubs because you completely forgot about it before climbing into the mud hole, you're gonna get mud all in your interior because you're climbing out, you're locking the hubs, throwing it back in four-wheel drive, and away you go. You know, these trucks, yeah, there's quite a difference here between the suspensions for sure. Leaf spring front axle versus torsion bar front axle, more or less pick your poison. Me and my wife, we both wanted 90s trucks. We're 90s babies, and this is roughly what we grew up. Our parents had. So, I mean, my grandfather owned a similar truck to this. Her parents, her dad had owned something similar to this. Not diesels, but that's one of the difference between the two. Still plenty more to come. We're still paying down a couple credit cards. Once we get those paid off, we're saving our pennies in order to get more things for these trucks. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
She has big plans for hers. She doesn't want to spoil anything because she just likes to keep people guessing. Me, I like to give hints here and there about what I'm.
Well, you surprise people because you rarely ever post on Instagram.
Yeah.
I post every day. That's why I like to keep some things a secret to have a surprise.
So
you're just like, oh, new post. By the way, did this.
Yeah. So I'm a little late when I post on Instagram, but I hope you guys liked my last post on Instagram and a couple posts before that. I am no painter by any means. I actually spent the whole day repainting my mirrors because they were turning yellow. I messed up with the clear coat. I actually painted too much clear coat and they sunbaked and turned yellow, which I was worried about. I'm not a painter by any means. I'm a mechanic, so the mirrors definitely do look better now. I still want to repaint the grill before we go to a truck show, which the truck show coming up is the
I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, 2020 has been a weird year. We had a bunch of plans, and
so many truck shows.
Yeah, we said that this was our year, and you know, like a lot of people did, and
we ain't having it.
Yeah, so hopefully 2021 will be better, but that doesn't mean that these builds stop. We have big plans for these things.
I mean, if they don't get canceled, we'll be at the Smoky Mountain Truck Fest in September?
Yeah, because we're going to your diesel hottie thing in October.
Yeah, and then the Valley River Truck Jam is in North Carolina, and that's in August, either August or September.
Yeah. So we'll be at those two. We still need to decide which truck we're gonna bring, because I really don't want to bring both of them all the way to North Carolina.
No, but they'll both be at in Sevierville for the Smoky Mountain.
Yeah, we'll bring both of them then. You know, they're not the prettiest. They are daily drivers. They are 20 some odd years old. They are not pavement princesses by any means, and they are not trailer babies. So, I mean, they are what they are. We plan on fixing everything with them, but it just takes time. And I mean, I'm proud of mine. I'm proud of how hers is coming along. We've done quite a bit of work to these things, but we thought we'd just show you guys, you know, some of the differences between the two. But yeah, plenty more to come. This was kind of a weird video because, like we said, we're saving up money to do more things with them. It's gonna be a couple of those videos here and there, but let us know what you guys think. We appreciate you for tuning in, and go check out my wife on Instagram. It's lady_powerstroke95. She posts regularly. Me, I post every once in a while. I made a post today, but thank you so much for tuning in. You know, if you'd like to see more videos like this, please let us know. But you know, more to come. Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
y'all.